So you talk about you grew it into $1 billion company. So let's talk kind of in the present, what IMI today, or in the industry today. Let's touch there. How would you assess kind of the current state of the EMS industry here in 2024?
Oh, wow. It's changed completely and continues to evolve, right? One significant thing that I noticed is that the demand cycle has really changed and has been in different cycles. Both, it used to be that we were driven by very, very given cycles of either, the school cycle is going to happen. The PC number, we know what is going to drive, right? Interest rates, and the industrialization and all the infrastructure build out. We know how that's going to drive the automotive sector. The opening up of regions, China opening up, and all that. We knew the inflection that was going to happen. Well, now what we see is that as each country now looks more internally on how to drive its economy rather than how it's going to be playing within another set of economies, changes the cycle, demand cycle. And that makes the inventory management really very hard. Because just because you have the inventory in a certain location is not a given that you will be able to use it in the market that you want to serve, right? Case in point is the U.S. trade war.
Yeah.
So that's really, I see a current state. So the volatility extends beyond that. It extends now to the financial side of the business because the currencies are also so volatile. I've never seen the currency move so much. And this was brought about when the countries that were printing money all decided that instead of trying to protect the global currency, the basket of currency, I need to protect my own economy first. Bank of Japan devaluating to an unprecedented value. China, same way. U.S. managing its interest rate based on the local economy rather than what effect it may have with the rest of the world. And so, quantitative easing by the ECB. So very, very, very much different from when I was managing, 2 years ago.
As I hear you speak, it reminds me, there's been a lot of talk about the end of globalization as we know it, right? And that we're touching on. So do you think that the different global regions within EMS will become more segregated, or do you think that they need to remain integrated to some degree because of supply chain considerations?
Well, from an EMS perspective, the diversified presence actually bodes well. Because as what we already agreed, this pendulum for globalization to regionalization is happening right now.
Yeah.
So if you are not able to have a presence in these major markets and locations, then it becomes much more difficult for the OEM to manage.
Yeah.
And for the OEM, what they're looking for is comfort and convenience. Right? As does everybody. So anybody who would then be able to provide that comfort and convenience becomes the partner. But being able to manage that in itself becomes such a hard part because the demand cycle change, as I said, and the OEM, and including the EMS for that matter, will now have to address this trend that I've seen happen way back, that's also the foundation of our strategy for our current state, is what I call mass customization, right? So yes, each region and each country now, each consumer base, all have their own peculiarities on features that they want, right? And they're not mindful for standardization anymore. They're just looking inwards. So then that's carried on to the manufacturer to figure out how to provide a a volume cost to a customized product,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so then the ability to be able to work on standardization of your process while allowing an almost immediate change in the supply chain to be able to use the same level of cost makes it a challenge, right? On all fronts, even to the customer, because their customers are also dictating to the OEM. Well, yes, in the past, I would be willing to wait 4 months for a car. No,
Yeah.
if you can't have it on the lot, I don't want it.
Yeah.
So then the pressure to then just in time comes in, right? But yes, but then everybody's still reeling from the COVID days
Exactly.
when we had
Exactly.
just in time and then boom, nothing.
Yeah. A whole lot of nothing. Exactly.
So,
My-
so that's
you touched on the OEMs here, and I want to follow up on that point. Beyond kind of comfort and convenience, how have you seen your OEM relationships kind of evolve over the years in terms of kind of maybe conditions, but also their expectations of their EMS partners?
well, there's always going to be so there's those EMs, OEMs that are vertically integrated on their own.
Yeah.
And so their view of what an EMS is and their partnership relationship differ from those that are product focused only and that are not vertically integrated, right? Two different animals, but
Yeah.
same. So on the other hand, the other one is just looking for level loading and for being able to manage the surge capacity. Then they need an EMS partner for that, right? The other one really needs a strategic partner because one, they're putting their eggs in one basket if they play with this person, and they don't have that much option if it fails because they're not vertically integrated. And switching is not that easy, right? So from that perspective, finding or having that OEM relationship of the latter becomes much more important to the EMS than the former, right?
Yeah.
Because the former will have multiple supply chains. And so you're just bidding. That's where the e-bidding happens.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the simultaneous engineering happens when you really have a partner who has a product. It needs an optimized manufacturing flow that can do the mass customization they need on a regional basis. That's where simultaneous engineering happens. And that's the one that I see on a long-term basis. And I'm happy to note that we have customers that we've had tenure over 20, 15, 20 years now that we have had that relationship.
That's very good. So, this seems like a natural segue, but let's kind of shift more to the future now. So, how do you assess the future for the EMS industry?
A future is still going to be good in my sense. I mean, the need for EMS will be there and grow. Well, what is actually outsourced will start to change, right? Depending on how that particular OEM views its strategy in being able to compete. Do I go back and just focus on my core, or do I then take away all the variability since I have a known entity, a known product, known brand, and stay with my vertical, right? So those are the things that will dictate the growth of the EMS industry. But if you look on a percentage basis, the EMS industry only provides roughly around 30% of the total electronic products in the world. That's still a small amount, right?
Yeah.
When there's still 70% that's actually built internally by the OEMs. So from that perspective, I see it's still a bright future for the EMS industry. Now, to what level will it be it's going through that pendulum cycle, as we talked about, from globalization to nationalization. It will hit a peak and it will start swinging back. The challenge for the EMS is how fast will it be able to adapt through that swing. And it's not just the EMS company itself or the market. You now have to fine tune that with your partner, which is the OEM, because they have a different view, which markets they want. And as an example, US companies were all banking their future that there's a certain percentage of revenue that's going to come from China. And lo and behold, so the markets that they were not looking at, where they now have to dig deep, right, are the markets that they have to go through now and dig deep, right? So that changes it also. So there's geopolitical ramifications to the OEM, which the EMS company will now have to start thinking ahead a little bit and hedge on how they're going to be able to manage that.
Yeah. So I appreciate those comments. So tell me about IMI now, IMI's future. Now, you know, Lou Hughes has assumed the position of CEO effective the beginning of this month, May 1st. So I guess that's a week ago. He has considerable EMS industry experience. It sounds like you're turning the car over to somebody who knows how to drive it.
Yeah, well, Lou went through a process within the board, the IMI board, and was vetted by the nominations committee, and then unanimously was elected and identified for it. Yes.
And you know, I'm reminded of this is an old football analogy. When my favorite team are the San Francisco 49ers, Arthur, and when Bill Walsh, the great coach, retired, he turned it over to his assistant, George Seifert. And
Yes.
when he did that, his comment was, you know, well, George has the fastest car on the track. We'll see how he can drive, right? So, and George
Well,
went on to win a Super Bowl, right? So,
yeah. Sustaining a company is a different animal from building an entity. I say,
yeah.
you know, it has its own merits and different skill sets is necessary. I was lucky enough that when I had that period, I was able to build a trust and a group of individuals who actually shared in the vision and was willing to go through the wall just to make it happen for me.
Yeah.
I mean, the unique part of it, I would say, and I don't know how often it happens, was when I joined in 2001, I actually went into the company by myself. I did not even bring my EA that I had in my previous company with me. I walked in and I told everybody, we first of all, I'm here to learn. The company would not have survived 20 years of existence at the time if they didn't do something right. So I know something right was done, and I'm here to learn it, and I want to learn it. I said, the potential is there to grow. It just needs to be adapted and some new thoughts brought into it that maybe the company is capable of that never thought of. And that's what I would bring.
Mm-hmm.
But I gave everybody a white sheet of paper. And I said, all of you are this. You now have an opportunity to write history and make history. Now, together we can do this if you're willing to put in the trust and the confidence. Because for me to come in and not have anybody looking after my back, that's how much I trust you guys from day one. Now, we're going to go through this journey and you're going to have to believe, because I will have to believe.
Ah, well put. Well put. So, Arthur, let's talk about you. What's your future? I must say one of the things I've always appreciated whenever before I get ready to interview you, I always go to your LinkedIn page. And it's been the same picture there of you on a motorcycle, kind of sitting there looking back. And so what's the future? I mean, there's that rebel kind of image there. I love. Um, what's in store for you moving forward, sir?
Well, on the short-term basis, I'll take a break and like you said, put in more time to the passion I continue to have, which is still going out there and being adventurous. So I will not stop that. I will do that a little bit more, and I've already lined up several runs on a global basis for me to be able to do that. Spend more time with the family, of course, and actively do more board and advisory work. I think this last 40 years of being in the industry, even for a simple-minded person like me, has brought a lot of experience. And so that has some value, I believe, that could be used. I was very privileged enough to build a very global network spanning the globe, and I continue to be engaged just to understand how all these dots connect
Yeah.
eventually and change lives, right? And find purpose and change lives. So that's where I'll be moving forward to.
Yeah. That I read that in the press release announcing that it had you saying that you've been on a lifelong journey of finding purpose and making a difference. And what I hear you saying is that journey continues, and you will be applying your skills and your network and to continuing that mission. So that's
I hope
good.
so.
I hope so too, sir. I hope so too. Um, Arthur, I've followed IMI, gosh, since, like I said, I remember when the Speedy Tech, I remember I started in 1998 in the industry and became familiar with IMI shortly thereafter. And, you've always been very gracious and generous with me, especially in this role on EMSNOW. Your insights have always been very appreciated by both myself and our viewership. And so I just want to take an opportunity to thank you for your graciousness over the years and being such a great leader and being such a strong contributor to the EMS industry.
I appreciate it, Eric. I mean, it's been a great time, and I've always enjoyed each time we had a time to discourse. I never felt like I was being interviewed. I felt like I was just talking to somebody who actually shared the same passion that I have.
Well, I'm glad that came across, sir, because I do. And I wish you nothing but success in whatever it is you do, Arthur.
I appreciate it, Eric, and give my best to Philip as well.
I will. Take good care, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a
Bye-bye.
great day.